Okay, so before I start, I genuinely would like everyone to actually give a great big round of applause to the panelists for having taken time from the busy schedule, and also please do clap for yourselves too. Awaaz aani chahiye. Wonderful, thank you so much. So from morning, we have had different conversations. We spoke about empathy, human empathy, how important it is. We spoke about the influencer infrastructure changing. We definitely in the last panel, we also spoke about, sorry, I forgot what was the last panel. I was unfortunately not there. But new topics that we are actually exploring. Now with BW Momentum Conference, what we are doing is that we are addressing modern marketing tactics. And without AI, I don't think so it would have been completed. So if I start, that AI, this is not, Agentic AI is not something that listens or anything. It just acts. It doesn't assist. For the last 2 years, we have been talking about AI continuously. We have been taking it on with understanding AI, with understanding the concepts of generative AI. And now coming on to Agentic AI, it's something very new for all of us. Now, if I may start with the very honest, that how are each of the companies, actually, Taran, if I start with you, what is AI for you? What is Agentic AI for you? And how is your company adapting to it?
Thanks. I think overall, from a TCPL perspective, we have adapted AI for the digital transformation journey that we are in, right? From the time, let's say, the manufacturing happens to the final airing of the ad, I think the full funnel itself is now getting transformed into what AI would bring to the table, right? Agentic AI specifically, I think we are more in the works of it than going ahead and implementing immediately, because there's a lot of test and learn, right? It's not Gen AI, right? Which is what the world is using right now, yeah. Which is more command and then input output sort of stuff, right? I think from that place, I think Agentic is still something which is test and learn, then go all over and overtake the full thing. But of course, AI in itself is something which is fully integrated at an overall level.
Okay. Mr. Alapatt?
I'm going to give a slightly longish answer. 2 parts. One is the 3 principles on which we've laid a foundational sort of plan for AI and how we'll use it. And I think that's important because you need to have a sort of approach to AI, if you will. So the 3 things that we believe in at Thomas Cook Group is, 1, it must have a clear business case, which is an opportunity or a challenge or a set of it that you're trying to address. Number 1, with clearly measurable outcomes mapped to those. The second is that it must empower our existing human resources to do more, do faster, do more efficiently. So essentially, we see it as a force multiplier of people, so not independent of their skill sets and knowledge. And the third piece is really that it must, in its final analysis, be able to make the organization at large better, faster, more agile, and more adapted to a very rapidly changing consumer. So these are the 3 principles, if you will, that we build AI on. So we're using AI in multiple scenarios, and this is linked to the first point. The first is from the point of view of how we communicate. We have, and in the earlier session I heard the gentleman talk about using avatars. So we have actually a personification or an avatar of our bot, which is called Tacy at Thomas Cook and Easy at SOTC. So this is both a chat bot on the website and now a voice bot which will speak in multiple languages. So the bot takes your conversations. If you go to the website, it can help you plan your holiday, including a fully customized holiday, price it for you, do everything for you. It'll also voice bot, so if you speak call, it'll answer the call, especially after work hours, speak in multiple languages, talk like any agent would, and it has the power of cumulative knowledge, so obviously it's very efficient. We also have a QC bot, which listens in to every call that a human's taking and identifies ways that human can get better and feeds it back real time to the agent so he can adapt. And at the end of it goes to the supervisor to customize training for that individual so that they can get better and earn more. So that's the QC bot. 3 is we have something called an agent assist. So every agent real time is linked to an AI that is listening to the call and is prompting with information and inputs that could help the seller deal with the customer better. Thereby, training the seller to become better naturally, and also making the quality of the conversation better with the customer. So obviously productivity and capability increases there as well. And what we're also doing is scoring customers based on their intent into hot, warm, and cold. So our human agents are able to follow up more efficiently, focusing on the serious buyers versus the window shoppers. So the way we're looking at it is these are just some of the use cases we're already deployed, but we will always use these 3 principles to look at, is it really helping solve a problem or improve customer experience? How are we going to measure it? And is it helping the humans do a better job?
Wonderful. We'll go deep into it once we set the tone further. Arti, for World Goal Council as well, like what is AI for you and how are you integrating it in your organization?
Good afternoon, everyone. I completely agree with my co-panelist. So on Agentic AI, our journey is, we are beginning that journey now. We've been extensively using AI for marketing campaigns, and we've seen a lot of success. And a lot of success is in the efficiency, it being very agile and cost-effective. We've seen that power that AI brings to the table. It's not just marketing, but also in the HR, the operations. So what he was talking about is, different operations also something where we're seeing that how do we use AI to ensure that we have better efficiency. And yes, there's a very clear mandate on ensuring that whatever we do have a multiplier effect, as in what we do, are we able to kind of multiply that resources and efforts and give an outcome basis that. But at this point of time, while we are setting ourselves from moving from how to use AI for our purpose to agentic AI, we are actually going through this journey and setting the governance in place. That's something we are very passionate about. So we have our across globe, including the US, China, India, Middle East, APAC markets, we have set up one specific set of people who are looking at how do we set governance. I'll give you a very small example to make a point. In China, we are looking at releasing a campaign. Very, very basic use of AI where you have the celebrity, the big celebrity in China, not using the person, but the AI avatar. Avatar is in the same person, but in AI version, licensing it. It's lot more cost effective because license is cheaper than using the actual, and also in terms of production and the entire production, the heavy setup, it's a lot more easier and cost effective. Simple solution, right? And sounds very exciting, something which is new age. The problem that we have is how does the governance work? What happens if it goes wrong? How do you manage the crisis? What are the ethical boundaries that we have? So the entire panel that we have set within our organization is to understand that it's not just about using AI. And while you're moving to the agentic AI space where a lot more power will be given to the machines, then how do you make sure that whatever governance, the structure that you've put will help you navigate that world? So it's more preparation for us right now than actual usability, like she also mentioned. But yeah, that's what we are kind of focusing a lot on.
That's new, that's interesting. Aman, for you, on the similar lines, like with JK Cements, how are you integrating AI? And, especially agentic, if I talk, because it's a, it's a sector where it's also needed. It's also being inculcated. What is there for you in the organization? What do you mean by it?
Sure. So our journey on the usage of AI has also been similar. It has gone through a generational shift from the first generation standard AI to the Gen AI now, and agentic AI, which we are just starting to explore at a very basic level. I think, of course, it's going to be pick up and become mainstream in some time in the future. So current usages of regular AI are a lot because this is a paints category. So for example, one of the key, and I'll add to what my fellow panelists said. So the 3 cases And then another fourth case that we also look for is AI genuinely solving for a consumer problem? I'll give you an example. So one of the key challenges in a paints category is I don't want to paint some part of the house and then decide whether this is the final color of choice, because India being a market wherein you typically hire a painter to paint a house, whether you want to paint the full house or just a small portion, it inculcates the same amount of hassle. So what you do is you typically pick up a software called as Visualizer, and which has the inbuilt AI, and it has a full palette of colors, and you can just do at the click of a button, see how your house will look post the painting process in that specific color of choice without actually committing to the painting. So this is a very useful use case that consumers love in the category. Other than that, AI is also helping us put to speed some of the customizations which were not earlier possible at a pace. For example, in India, which is like many countries in one, that's the reason we call it subcontinent. A house in Delhi looks very different from a house in Kerala. Delhi has standard flat roofs. Kerala houses have sloping roofs. The choice of colors. Typical North India, you will have light pastel shades. Southern eastern part of India, very dark shades. The way people look and dress up is also very different. So if I have to create a digital banner or something for my consumers in Delhi and consumers in Kerala, if I don't differentiate, one of them is going to not be very happy. So AI gives me the power to create 30 different combinations of houses and color choices for 30 different states of India at a scale which was not possible earlier by using human intervention. This is another very important use case that we have. Similarly, we are also exploring, we're just starting to explore AI for if it can scrape a lot of data points, see what are the common problems consumers are facing on the internet and putting it on social media otherwise, and if there is a meaningful product concept possible. Recently we saw a reel going live in some of the social circles where they're saying India is burning. This is a roof which has 50-degree temperatures, and someone did that, what we call an Indian ingenuity or jugaad, and created a makeshift solution. It reduced the temperature by 10 degrees. And that gave us an idea, okay, we can create actually a paint product basis that. So some of these things, otherwise which would have been very difficult, now AI is being put to use. As far as agentic AI is concerned, as I said, we are still scratching the surface. So right now we are just using it for some very, very objective decisions. How much budget to allocate, how much campaign phasing to be done, consumer audience segmentation like that. Nothing on there what she referred to as the judgmental or the ethical aspects. Right now we are still staying clear of that, just using that for the standard KPI driven tasks and not for anything else.
Understood. You mentioned a very interesting thing, visualizer, in your sector. I will come to that later though. Now, when we are talking about agentic AI, to be honest, it's still new. We are all understanding how it works. Even a report by Gartner said that 60% of the brands will use AI, agentic AI, for end-to-end one-on-one user conversations. And by 2028, also marking a shift from campaign-based marketing to autonomous customer engagement. I think someone in the previous panel also had this question from the audience, that how is it actually building? Now, today, like every major technology platform, be it Google, be it Meta, be it Salesforce, they are all promising marketing leaders that agentic AI can optimize, personalize, respond to campaigns without waiting for human intervention. But autonomous action requires autonomous judgment. And brand judgment is not a data set. It's a value system built over years and years of experience and ideation. How much of a brand's judgment can truly be encoded into agentic systems, and what happens when an AI agent makes a decision that probably you would never have made for your own brand? Taran, if I go on to you on this.
Yeah, I think, see, the thing is, you need it but you still don't need it. Yeah, it is like that. So you need it for a lot of the autonomous thing that you're talking about, for bringing scale, for bringing speed, for bringing in efficiency, accuracy, etc. You can input the brand guidelines. I remember the days when with one of the leading partners who give CDP to a lot of the CPG guys, right? And I met them last week. We are talking about how do we get the LLM of Agentic integrated, right? So that's the journey, yeah. But then there is a lot of human intervention, right, in terms of the ethics part of it, right? On how do you really make sure that there is control, but there is control to a certain extent, right? And I think that's where the thing is, right? Because the moment you onboard an agentic AI partner for a full task, there would still be a human intervention required. And that's why I said we're doing a lot of test and learn, right? Because you would need that, right? For humans to understand when to intervene and when not to intervene, right? Because if it is too much intervention, then it deceives the full purpose anyways, right? So I would say that the world is going to move, right? From, I remember last to last year, we were talking about personalization, then we spoke about CDP, and now we're talking about LLMs and agentic integrated along with CDPs, right? Because CDP brings in a lot of personalization overall, right? And then you club it with agentic AI. It is a beautiful picture that you see in marketing, right? End to end when you take the campaign live. Human intervention, how much percentage will it need for what kind of campaigns? I think we will only test and learn, but definitely it will need that much of human intervention, I would say. I think there are other Western countries where you would see, a lot of agentic, which is running a lot of systems, right? They would have also test and learned, right? And that's how you will arrive at that sweet spot. I think that's how the journey is going to be.
Wonderful. Arti, on the same note, like, where do we actually understand that if, as we were also discussing earlier, like, if AI does something, if the agentic AI does something, it's the agentic AI. But if it does something wrong, it comes directly to the marketers. Where is that thin line of brand judgment where the marketers or the human actually needs to intervene to actually tell that, okay, no, this is not right? Where do you think is that bifurcation?
That's a great question. See, when we look at, as a marketer, when you look at brand guidelines, that's very easy to set and automate. And that's something AI will and already has made the intervention easiest one to. Now, when you look at the judgment side, now within judgment, I will first talk about the easy ones because the conversation is more focused on, especially with agentic AI coming in place, is more on the judgment side. Now, there are a lot of rules that we will create within the judgment side. If this happens, we go this way. If that happens, we'll keep creating those set of rules through trial and error method. But after a point, there will come a point when it's about, who you are as a brand. What do you stand for? What your values are? What are the cultural cues that you believe in? And those are the things which will never be replaced because that's where, the data set will be limited and that's where the intuition comes in. It's a promise which is made by the brand and this is something which there has to be an accountability and the accountability has to rest with the person, with the human intervention. So when it comes to that kind of judgment, that will always stay with marketers is what I believe. The set of rules that we will create over a period of time, I'm pretty sure that we will keep creating more and more robust rules and therefore the judgment also to start with 10-20%, maybe it will reach to 40-50% of the judgment will also probably will be handed over to agentic AI. But when it comes to, ultimately your brand, what you offer, that judgment would always be with human, the marketeers in this case. And that's where probably the line will be very, very sharply drawn. And we will probably learn it along the way as we keep experimenting.
Lovely. Abram, so like on this very note, like we, as Taran said, that a few years ago we were talking about personalization. Right now, hyper-personalization is at its peak. It's no longer a buzzword, it's actually being implemented. People are actually witnessing it, consumers are seeing it, and nonetheless, I think everyone is loving it as much personalized as it is getting. Now, at an agentic scale, it means two consumers, say Aman maybe and me, we are getting the same thing in two different cities. One understanding on the same day, okay, this is fitting to Reema's budget or this is fitting to Aman's budget, for instance. There are different narratives that are roaming around it, the emotional triggers. Now, if an agentic system identifies that a consumer is in a particular distress, or automatically gives them an option of, like lately there have been a lot of EMIs, zero interest, pay now, pay later, buy now. Is that brilliant marketing as per you with agents actually doing that, or is just targeting and taking advantage of that situation the person is in?
I'm going to answer the question, but let me first address the earlier question because I thought it was very interesting. I think marketers and organizations are actually facing three different questions here. The first is obviously the attraction of AI and what it can do from a scaling, productivity, speed to market, efficiency point of view, and obviously therefore the profitability angle. The second is what all of us as marketers have come to respect over years, which is the idea of a brand and what distinguishes one brand from another. To my mind, that's a classical theory, and that's really about distinction. It's about differentiating one brand from another. And speaking for our business, which is a services business, what distinguishes services brands is the quality of experience, right, that you provide. That is essentially the product you're selling. So now when you look at AI and you look at autonomous AI especially, I think there's a fine balance you have to achieve where it doesn't become fully machine-led. The human touch, if that is missing eventually, it will tell, because then it's a question of who's a better tech company rather than who's a better service company. And at the end of it all, we'd like to believe we are, at essence, people come to us for a quality interaction, the human touch, the understanding of human travelers, especially Indian human travelers, and their individual needs. So which brings me to the first response I made, which is the principle of, to us, AI must extend human capability. We must make our humans, with that human touch, more capable of serving more customers faster and more efficiently, because in that fine balance is our ability to stay different from pure tech travel companies. So, sorry, I digressed a bit because I thought that was relevant to address.
Since you were, speaking about the previous question, this one is a follow-up on that I was asking this to Arti as well, that what if an AI agent makes a decision which you as a marketer will never do that?
I think the third angle, which is the ethical angle, because at the end of the day, the customer reached out to you because they trust you as a brand. And so the ownership cannot transfer. Just because you automate a whole lot of things and you say, oh, that's a machine, at the end of it all, whether it's the DPDP angle or the criminal liability angle or the human danger angle, which is very eminent in travel, you cannot afford to say, this was automated and therefore I am absolved of this problem, right? One is the customer experience per se, and call me old-fashioned, to borrow a line from the earlier panelists. I hate talking to a bot. Having created a bot, I say this with some caution. So beyond a point, I do want to talk to a human. I'm happy if the bot can solve a simple solution, right? Or a simple question, automatic, I'm happy for an answer. But if it's a complex thing, or if I'm in a crisis, I expect a human being, or I want a human being to understand it, because empathy is still an evolutionary thing for a lot of AI, including agentic AI. So I don't know if that answers the point, but I think the responsibility still lies with marketers / businesses to own the customer and that expectation they have. To the point on personalization, I think today systems are getting very, very smart at picking up signals. Language is the easy one, gender, tone, and they have the advantage of the AIs and the LLMs having absorbed 100,000, 200,000 interactions with people from that state. So actually it is better than a lot of human beings in their ability to pick up signals and respond. So if I know enough about you from past experience to your example, I can maybe give you a stronger proposition than most individual human agents would actually.
I just wanted to add on the distress part of it when you spoke about, you know, how
Hyper-personalization and how
Yes,
it's taking
when you're
it.
trying to leverage that. I just want to. It's a very interesting question because, you know, and that focuses on the ethical side of it. As a marketer, before the AI discussion started, even as a fraternity, we made mistake. I mean, if you look at insurance as a sector, and I'm not calling out, I mean, we all have made mistakes, and that's where we've learned. In fairness, these are the things when we did as marketeers, we created the divide or deepened the divide that existed. And then if you see over a period of 8-10 years or longer or probably shorter, things change and we did the right thing. Now when you talk about AI and distress thing, ultimately it depends on us just because we understand when we talk about something like, you know, when we're reaching out to consumers and talking about that, okay, you can buy today and pay later, for us it's an opportunity, it's an access that we provide. Yes, when you look at AI, maybe there is a possibility that there is a vulnerability which is trying to tap, and there could be a mistake, and that's where we come in. It's very, very important that we need to understand that, you know, we create those guardrails and make sure that we do not make mistake, and that is marketeer's responsibility. We can't say that it's machine and it made a mistake. That's exactly is our responsibility, that when before the AI, there's an ethical side and we faltered and we kind of improved ourselves. In the same way, in the AI world also, when these things happen, and I hope that we correct before we make mistakes, when these things are setting up by the machine, we make sure that there are corrections so that there is no mistake happening, there is no, you know, distress place where we are trying to tap and trying to sell. I mean, those are really unethical, and that borderline, that line we should not cross. And this is completely something which is on to us. I just wanted to discuss that distress part because that's very important.
Yeah, I mean, for the very same, like hyper-personalization we have all been talking about. Now, when we actually, you also spoke about equalizer. Now, AI equalizer, again, it definitely helps. We live in a world of Pinterest. We live in a world of, you know, GPTs where you tell me what's authentic or what looks very cutesy. Those kind of words. And the last session that we were talking about was Gen Z and decoding Gen Alpha. They are the ones who are actually coming up more and more with such things. Now, when do you think like this entire process that the agents do of hyper-personalization is brilliant marketing or just targeting segments, catching them on their triggers, on their emotional response? At the end of the day, I understand it helps the business, but how do you see it?
So basically, see, like the way my fellow panelists said, it all is a question of drawing that line. As long as if it is an input given to a consumer in a very, very objective matter of stately fact that, okay, this is an option and it is up to him, give him the full pros and cons, you evaluate and then you, like the BNPL example, buy now, pay later, it is his choice. But the moment it starts targeting the human vulnerabilities, the AI agent senses this part of the city, there is a heavy down shower, let's increase the cab fares. Or a female traveling at night, maybe something like that. So that is when it starts. Maybe there is a short-term revenue gain that the company might expect, but what is the brand impression, lasting brand impression that the consumer is carrying about it? So that's where I'm saying, yes, as long as if you do it and the consumer in its full senses is making an objective choice, it's absolutely. In fact, that helps build a long-term trust on the brand that, okay, this is something, a company which understands me. Of course, because of the hyper-personalization, you are able to customize that message for that individual customer as if it was meant only for me. But the moment it gets into that territory that you are putting a gun on the head and saying you have to pick it, I think we are talking of from that efficiency space, this starts getting into the ethical space. So the way we earlier talk about in the, when hacking was this thing, we learned about a concept of ethical hacking. I think there has to evolve a concept of ethical AI that the moment the AI finds that a consumer is in some sort of vulnerability or distress, it moves into like a safe mode or something like that, that say, no, I will not take advantage of that. I will just do my regular job. And that's when it will, move from that. It will balance the efficiency part as well as the ethical part as well.
Very nice. Yeah.
On that, that is what the growth is, right? Which is of generative engine optimization, right? Where what you rightly said, that has to be an ethical and there has to be a line to what, let's say, a Gen AI is actually producing, right? Today you are producing something on ChatGPT and with the branded recommendation which will start coming in, right? A lot of brands are getting into that. Where is the safe line of that, right? Where is it that it doesn't become like a sales pitch, right? And where is it that it actually solves for the problem? I think it is more for the AI enterprises to solve for, but as marketeers and as customers, if it becomes too much on the face, if it becomes too much biased in that manner, the outputs, I think that's when the customers will start realizing that, oh, this is not what I actually thought it would be in terms of solving my problems, right?
Very wonderfully said. Actually, on that note only, like when we are talking about machines and agents, on a very sincere note, like if they can write briefs, if they can act by themselves without human intervention, where does human strategy actually begins and where does it ends if the machine and agents are doing all of it? Taran, you may start with it.
See, I think it is, one is that what is frankly any AI tool, what is the capability of any AI tool, whether it is agentic, whether it is Gen, it is about what you actually feed into the tool, right? And then there is a lot of data which gets analyzed and then it throws you the best recommendation, right? What you feed is what you get, right? But you don't feed in emotions, right? You don't feed in a joke, right? And there's a popular thing that AI doesn't get jokes, right? I actually tried that. Huh?
Did it get the
jokes.
joke?
Yeah, but the role of the marketeer is still going to be that, okay, Mr. AI, you gave me XYZ recommendation, and that's what the agentic AI, let's say, is throwing in as a journey. But there is something which as a human being relates to the customers. Maybe it is not there. Maybe it is a trend. Maybe it's a feeling. I think that's when your human intelligence also plays in, right? Because if it was that intelligent, if I may say, humans have only made AI, right? At the end of it, right? If you think of it, the emotion part of it, the inciting part of it will still be, because it is so data-driven, will still need humans, right? Because it's not something which is in black and white. Like there's a lot of gray also in the world, right? So that gray area is, I think, best understood by marketeers or by humans in that manner.
Okay. Everyone, so to you on this, like when we are actually talking about machines, when we are talking, like at the AI Summit very recently, we saw a lot of agents actually doing all the work. I won't name the companies at the moment, but a very interesting insight that came from there is that for agentic AI to work, generative AI actually helps build the agentic AI. But that is no longer, generative AI doesn't use there. It's agents now talking. Now, when we are actually on the same question, if machines are actually taking over, as per you, where is human actually begins? Where does it end? Because eventually, it will come on humans that how are you operating it? Prasoon Joshi, when I met him last time, and he uses a line very often, says the greatest poem has not been written yet, saying what is unexpressed is not data. So how do you think the intervention of human actually comes in between?
So I think two parts. One is to the point on agentic versus Gen AI. These are evolutionary improvements, right? The content generated by Gen AI is what agentic AI uses to act on, right? So in a sense, it's the brain or intelligence. And to the point she was making, our capability, our responsibility, if you will, as organizations and brands that customers trust, and we want to encourage and build that trust, it is incumbent on us to build that intelligence and capability in a way that balances a bit of understanding in human nature and sympathy and empathy to the extent possible, and be able to create enough guardrails so that the agentic layer doesn't act autonomously in a way that is asynchronous with the way the brand would, as humans would operate. And that's very important. And that's important for us because it is a manifestation of our brand and our business. Just because it's a machine doing it doesn't make it any better. The end of it all, it's a customer, in our case, paying a lot of money for a highly involved, highly important once-a-year vacation with hard-earned money. You cannot afford to treat that lightly and just say that's because my machine made a mistake. Oops, right? We can't afford that oops moment. So I think important for us to recognize that humans in the loop is very important, and humans in the loop to the extent that humans are overseeing what AI is doing so we can rein it in. Let's recognize that this is not a frontier we have mastered yet. And frankly, we have not mastered any of the frontiers we've created. So let's reconcile that this is a learning cycle. This is definitely something that, including the creators of, from Anthropic to Microsoft, they all acknowledge that some of this is galloping ahead of them,
True.
right? It's learning how to self-preserve. It's learning how to, lie to self-preserve and stuff like that. So I think there is a realization, and all of us as marketers must recognize that this is a frontier that we are experimenting with. It must have guardrails. It must have people in the loop. And we must equip the agentic layer with the generative capability and knowledge and information that we can be responsible for. And do not empower it to do things that we cannot take responsibility for. I think that's highly irresponsible if you do it.
That's a wonderful answer, to be honest. Thank you so much. I think our time is also up. That's why I was saying that, requesting on that. So we had quite a serious discussion, but we can, just calm down because I think the next panels are a little relaxing. This was the most serious conversation of the day. And thank you so much for your such insightful conversations. I definitely learned something. I think we all are, again, it's very new. Agentic AI, we are still figuring it out. And we are still, I think, in the years ahead, we'll still get to learn a lot more about it. Thank you so much for your presence. Thank you.